April 2nd, 2015, London, England. 14 million pounds, gone, over a long weekend. And the craziest part? The thieves were all grandpas. Average age, 67 years old. Brian Reeder was 76 years old, a career criminal who had already made over 200 million pounds from robberies. He had helped launder gold from the legendary 1983 Brinks-Mat heist. He had been present when an undercover police officer was stabbed to death. On the Easter weekend of 2015, he led a gang of elderly men into the heart of London's Diamond District. They drilled through 20 inches of reinforced concrete. They ransacked 73 safety deposit boxes. They walked out with wheelie bins full of gold, diamonds, and cash. But this isn't just a story about a heist. It's about the alarm that was ignored, the lookout who fell asleep, the police who never came. One thief used a senior citizen's bus pass to travel to the crime scene. Another brought his diabetes medication. A third fell asleep during his lookout shift. They called themselves the Diamond Wheezers. The press called them the Bad Grandpas. This is how a gang of pensioners pulled off the largest burglary in English legal history, and how they got caught because they were analog criminals operating in a digital age. Hatton Garden, the heart of London's diamond trade since the 18th century. Nearly 300 jewelry businesses packed into a small area. More precious stones pass through these streets than almost anywhere else in the world. The name itself carries weight in the diamond industry. Antwerp may be bigger, but Hatton Garden is older. At numbers 88 to 90 sat the Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company, underground vault, thick concrete walls, 999 safety deposit boxes. Jewelers, dealers, and private clients stored their most valuable possessions here: gold, diamonds, cash, family heirlooms, business inventory. The security should have been impenetrable. Reinforced concrete walls, 20 inches thick, an intruder alarm connected to a central monitoring station, CCTV cameras, a heavy vault door with time delay locking. But the building had weaknesses. The alarm system had a history of false activations. So many false alarms over the previous year that police had flagged the building for no response on their system. The vault itself was not guarded at night, not on weekends. The CCTV had blind spots. One camera inside the vault area could be easily avoided. Most critically, the Easter bank holiday weekend of 2015 meant the building would be empty for 4 full days, Thursday night to Tuesday morning. Plenty of time to work. One man had been watching this building for years. He knew its rhythms, its vulnerabilities, its potential. How do you rob a vault buried under 20 inches of concrete? You don't break through it quickly. You take your time. You plan for years. You bring the right team. And if you're Brian Reeder, you do it at age 76. Brian Henry Reeder was born on February 28, 1939. Lewisham, South London. Harsh poverty. His father was a dock worker who taught him the criminal trade from an early age. At age 11, Reeder made his first court appearance. He stole tinned fruit, conditional discharge. He worked as a butcher's boy, became a fireman for British Rail, but honest work never suited him. He kept returning to crime. By the 1970s, Reeder had become a professional. In September 1971, he participated in a £2 million raid on Lloyd's Bank in Baker Street. The gang tunneled from a shop 2 doors away. Reeder escaped prosecution. Some say he paid off the police. He fled to Spain. No extradition treaty then. He continued operating from the shadows. Then came November 26, 1983. The Brinks-Mat robbery. 3 tons of gold bullion, 26 million pounds. The crime of the century. Reeder was not part of the actual robbery, but he was deeply involved in laundering the gold. By early January 1985, he had personally processed 3.6 million pounds worth of Brinks-Mat gold. On January 26, 1985, an undercover police officer named John Fordham entered the property of Reeder's associate Kenneth Noy. Fordham was stabbed 12 times. Reeder was present that night. Both men were charged with murder. Both were acquitted. Reeder was convicted of handling stolen goods, 8 years in prison. After his release, Reeder ran a used car dealership with his son. He lived quietly in Dartford, Kent, 3 houses on his estate, a respectable facade. His wife Lynn died in 2009. Reeder was effectively retired, 76 years old, wealthy from decades of crime. But Brian Reeder could not resist one last job. Why would a man worth millions risk everything? For a man who had spent 50 years as a professional thief, retirement was boring. The used car dealership was not enough. The quiet life in Dartford was not enough. Reeder missed the game, the planning, the execution. One last job, one final score, and then true retirement. But he could not do it alone. He needed a team, and Reeder did not look far. Terry Perkins, 67 years old. He had participated in the 1983 Security Express robbery. £6 million stolen, 22 years in prison. He escaped from open prison in 1995 and remained a fugitive until 2012. Perkins had heart problems, diabetes. He needed medication, but he was eager for one last score. Police later recorded him saying, "If we get nicked, at least we can hold our heads up that we had a last go, the last fling." Daniel Jones, 60 years old. Extensive criminal record, including a 1982 conviction for a £100,000 jewelry robbery. Known as one of the more eccentric criminals in the London underworld. He allegedly went to bed wearing his mother's dressing gown, with a fez on his head. He had conversations with his dog as if it were human. John Kenny Collins, 74 years old. Career criminal with fraud and robbery convictions stretching back to the 1960s. He would serve as driver and lookout. And then there was Basil, Michael Seed, 58 years old at the time of the heist. The son of a Cambridge University professor, educated at Nottingham University in physics and electronics. In 1984, Seed was sentenced to 3 years for dealing LSD. After serving 21 months, he moved into a council flat in Islington. He lived off the grid, no phone, no bank account, no benefits, no taxes. He paid for everything in cash. His expertise was electronics, alarms, security systems. The gang called him Basil. Some said the nickname stood for Best Alarm Specialist in London. Planning began as early as 2012, 3 years of preparation. Every Friday night, the gang met at the Castle Pub on Pentonville Road in Islington. They shared notes, discussed weaknesses, refined their approach. During the week, each member did his own research. They made deposits at the facility to study its layout. They asked questions of people who worked at similar places. They learned as much as they could about the building's architecture. By 2014, they were searching online for specific drilling equipment. A Hilti DD350 industrial concrete drill, diamond-tipped, 76 pounds heavy, capable of cutting through reinforced concrete. They watched YouTube tutorials on how to use it. The plan took shape. Basil would use keys to enter the building through the front door. He would disable the lift to allow access to the basement. He would defeat the alarm system. The others would carry equipment down to the vault. They would drill through the concrete wall rather than attempting the heavily alarmed vault door. Once inside, they would ransack the safety deposit boxes, load everything into wheelie bins, walk out before Tuesday morning. Everything was ready, the equipment, the team, the timing. But 6 men in their 60s and 70s against 20 inches of reinforced concrete. Think they can actually pull it off? Drop your prediction in the comments below and subscribe. You will want to see how this ends. Thursday, April 2nd, 2015, 5:58 p.m. An employee punched in the alarm code, locked up the Hatton Garden safe deposit building. The Easter weekend had begun. 9:19 p.m. The last staff member left the building. 9:23 p.m. 4 minutes later, a figure appeared inside. CCTV captured a man with red hair, visible beneath his cap. The press would later call him Mr. Ginger. He carried a black bag. He went downstairs toward the vault. 9:27 p.m. A white Ford Transit van pulled up to an alley beside the building. Men dragged wheelie bins down the alley. The van drove away. What was in those wheelie bins? Nothing but tools, for now. 9:30 p.m. More figures appeared inside. The Gent, Mr. Strong, Mr. Montana. The newspapers gave them names based on their clothing. Hard hats, high visibility jackets. One jacket read gas on the back. They looked like workmen. They carried steel supports, orange toolboxes, holdalls. One wheelie bin contained the 76-pound Hilti drill. Basil had used keys to enter through the main door. Now the gang disabled the lift from the second floor. They crawled out and found an unlocked cupboard under the stairs. Inside, the alarm controls. They disabled the system. One man dropped down the elevator shaft to the basement. He forced open a metal shutter. They cut the power to the outer iron gate and slid it open. They smashed the lock off the wooden main door. The others joined them. They cut through a second iron gate. Now they faced the vault wall. 20 inches of reinforced concrete. The Hilti DD350 roared to life. Diamond tip against concrete. They began drilling. Friday, April 3rd, 2015, 12:21 a.m. The intruder alarm activated. Despite Basil's efforts, something had triggered the system. Would this be the end? Would police arrive and catch them red-handed? The alarm company, Southern Monitoring, received the signal. They called the Metropolitan Police Central Communications Command. A confirmed intruder alarm has been activated at the Hatton Gardens Safe Deposit Limited. The call was logged, transferred to the computer-aided dispatch system. Then something strange happened. The system flagged the building for no police response. Too many false alarms over the previous year. The call was graded as not requiring attendance. No officers were sent. At the same time, the alarm company called Manish Bavishi, a director of the safe deposit company. He was on holiday in Sudan. He did not answer. The on-site security guard reportedly heard the alarm. He went downstairs, looked through the doors and windows, could not see anything. When asked why he did not open the building, he allegedly said he did not get paid enough. No one came to investigate. Inside the building, the gang froze when the alarm sounded. They waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. No sirens, no police, no security guards. They continued drilling. But there was a problem. After hours of work, they had bored 3 large holes through the concrete, just enough space for a man to squeeze through. Except a heavy metal cabinet blocked access on the other side. They could not move it. Their equipment was not sufficient. 6 a.m. Friday morning. Brian Reeder made a decision. This was too risky. He was 76 years old. His health was not good. The alarm had gone off. The cabinet was in the way. He left. Would the others follow? Would they abandon the job? Terry Perkins was furious. He later called Reeder an old ponce who sat in cafes talking about all our yesterdays. He bottled out at the last minute. But the others did not give up. They left the building, regrouped, acquired new equipment, a hydraulic ram, a pump and hose for the drill. Saturday, April 4th, 2015, 9 p.m. They returned, without Reeder. Basil let them back in. Michael Seed, Daniel Jones, and Terry Perkins descended into the vault area. Kenny Collins took up his lookout position in a building across the street at number 25 Hatton Garden. His job was to watch for guards or police, whistle if anyone approached. At some point during the night, Collins fell asleep. What if a guard had come by? What if police had finally responded? But it did not matter. No one came. Using the hydraulic ram, they pushed aside the metal cabinet blocking their access. The 3 holes they had drilled were now passable. Daniel Jones squeezed through first, then Basil. 73 safety deposit boxes awaited them. They worked systematically, prying open box after box. Gold bars, diamond rings, emerald necklaces, sapphire brooches, stacks of cash, watches. Everything went into bags. The bags went back through the hole. The third man loaded everything into the wheelie bins they had brought on Thursday. Hours passed, box after box after box. Sunday, April 5th, 2015. Between 6:10 and 6:30 a.m., the gang loaded their wheelie bins into Kenny Collins's white Mercedes van. They drove away into the London morning. 14 million pounds, maybe more, gone. They split up, disappeared into the city. 6 old men, 3 years of planning, 2 nights of work, 73 boxes emptied. The largest burglary in English legal history. For 6 weeks, they were free. The gang split the loot, millions in gold and jewelry divided among the conspirators. They were careful at first, laying low, not spending too lavishly. But old habits returned quickly. They met at their usual pub, discussed what to do next. Some talked about potential future jobs. Others began enjoying their newfound wealth. Gold melted down, jewelry broken apart, stones removed from settings and sold separately. They believed they had gotten away with it. They had no idea that police were already watching. The heist was not discovered until Tuesday morning, April 7th, 2015. Staff arrived for work, found the pile of rubble, the drilled holes, the ransacked vault, empty boxes scattered across the floor, power tools left behind. The discovery sent shockwaves through London. Scotland Yard announced a robbery at the Hatton Garden safe deposit. The flying squad was assigned to investigate. Commander Peter Spindler called it one of the most audacious burglaries in British history. The public was fascinated. Some compared it to Ocean's 11. The press coverage was almost affectionate. The criminals became folk heroes before their identities were even known. The police offered a £20,000 reward for information. But hard clues were scarce. The thieves had worn gloves, no fingerprints, minimal DNA evidence. The vault floor was covered in dust and debris. Then investigators found something. A camera above a fire exit. The gang had missed it, and street surveillance footage from the roads surrounding the building. A white Mercedes van had been circling the area before and during the heist. The van belonged to John Kenny Collins. Police tracked Collins. They watched him. They watched where he went. They watched who he met. On April 17, 2015, surveillance officers observed Collins meeting a man in Shoreditch Park. On April 24th, Collins met the same man again. Police began watching both men. Flying squad officers pulled phone records. Mobile tower data placed the gang's phones near Hatton Garden during the critical weekend. Financial records showed recent purchases of tools that matched equipment found at the scene. The net was tightening, but the gang had no idea. Meanwhile, the gang could not resist meeting again. Same pub, the Castle. Same Friday nights, same conversations. This time, police had hidden cameras, lip readers. And inside Kenny Collins's blue Citroen Saxo, they planted a listening device. Would the old criminals slip up? Would they say something incriminating? The old criminals talked freely in what they believed was the privacy of their own car. They boasted about the heist, complained about each other, discussed the loot, planned potential future jobs. Terry Perkins was recorded saying he was going to melt his good gold down. That could be his pension. They were analog criminals operating in a digital age. May 19th, 2015, about 6 weeks after the heist. Police knew the gang planned to transfer stolen goods between vehicles that day. Officers watched and recorded as the exchange went down. £4 million worth of stolen goods changing hands in broad daylight. The moment the transfer was complete, police moved in. 4 suspects arrested at the scene, caught red-handed. Daniel Jones, Terry Perkins, John Kenny Collins, a 4th man involved in the transfer. Brian Reeder was arrested at his home in Dartford. Police found a distinctive red scarf he had worn on CCTV Diamond magazines, a book on the gem underworld, a diamond tester, a diamond gauge. The tools of a lifelong criminal finally being used against him. But 2 men remained free. Basil had vanished, living off the grid. No phone records, no electronic trail. His accomplices refused to identify him. How do you catch a ghost? A man with no digital footprint. Officers analyzed the suspect's computers and phones. Search history revealed that as early as 2012, members had been researching drills. By 2014, searches had narrowed to the specific Hilti DD350 used in the heist. In the days following the heist, someone had searched for news articles, including one headlined, "Who were the jewelry heist raiders?" They had been monitoring the coverage, checking to see if their identities had leaked. The investigation expanded. Carl Wood, William Lincoln, Hugh Doyle, John Harbinson, all charged with conspiracy to commit burglary or handle stolen property. March 9, 2016, Woolwich Crown Court. Daniel Jones, Terry Perkins, and John Kenny Collins pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit burglary. Each received 7 years in prison. Carl Wood received 6 years. William Lincoln received 7 years. Hugh Doyle received a suspended sentence. Brian Reeder was sentenced separately on March 21, 2016, 6 years and 3 months. The judge noted their age, their experience, their arrogance. But what about Basil? Would he ever face justice? Police had been watching the man Collins met in Shoreditch Park for 3 years. Michael Seed, Basil, the ghost. He had no phone, no digital footprint. He lived in a cluttered council flat filled with electronics equipment, computers, magazines about surveillance. March 27, 2018, nearly 3 years after the heist. Flying squad detectives raided his flat on Liverpool Road in Islington. They found him red-handed. Over 1,000 items stolen from Hatton Garden. Gold bars, jewelry, gems, spread across his bedroom workbench. He had been melting down gold, breaking up jewelry, 143,000 pounds worth of stolen property in his possession. Seed was arrested, charged with conspiracy to burgle and conspiracy to conceal criminal property. At trial, he denied everything. He said he had never been known as Basil. But a forensic podiatrist named Gordon Burrow examined the CCTV footage of Mr. Ginger walking through the building. He compared it to footage of Seed walk. Seed had an unusual gait, a distinctive limp. Burrow likened it to Charlie Chaplin's walk. The match was strong. March 15, 2019, the Old Bailey. Michael Seed was found guilty by a majority verdict, 10-2. Conspiracy to commit burglary. Conspiracy to convert criminal property. 10 years in prison. Because he pleaded not guilty, his sentence was longer than his accomplices. 10 people were ultimately convicted in connection with the Hatton Garden heist. Terry Perkins died in Belmarsh Prison in February 2018. He was 69 years old. Heart problems and diabetes. He never saw freedom again. Brian Reeder was released in 2018 after serving half his sentence. Severe poor health. He faced a multi-million-pound confiscation order, but remained free on compassionate grounds. Reeder died in September 2023 at age 84, colon and prostate cancer. His family tried to keep his death secret. His death certificate listed his occupation as retired gardener. He never returned his share of the loot. None of it was ever recovered from him. To this day, more than £5 million worth of stolen goods has never been recovered. Some was likely melted down and sold, some hidden in locations known only to the thieves. Some may have been distributed to family members or hidden in overseas accounts. The full truth may never be known. In January 2018, Woolwich Crown Court ruled that the 4 main conspirators must pay a total of £27.5 million or face additional prison time. Most could not pay, or would not. John Kenny Collins was released after serving half his initial sentence, but in 2019, he received an additional 6 years for failing to pay his confiscation order. Daniel Jones also received additional years for failing to pay back millions. Michael Seed received an additional 6.5 years in 2022 for the same reason. The British justice system made it clear, you cannot keep the proceeds of crime, even if you hide them. The Hatton Garden Safe Deposit Company went into liquidation in 2015. Honest dealers lost their stock. Many were forced to leave the trade. The Metropolitan Police apologized for failing to respond to the intruder alarm. They acknowledged their systems had failed. Processes were changed. The security industry reassessed its standards. Advanced monitoring, better communication with police, vibration sensors that can detect drilling. The heist inspired multiple films. King of Thieves in 2018 starred Michael Caine as Brian Reeder. A 4-part ITV drama aired in 2019. Documentaries have been produced. Books have been written. The story captivated the public imagination because of its audacity, because of the age of the thieves, because of the scale of the heist, but also because of the stupidity. Kenny Collins fell asleep on lookout duty. Brian Reeder used someone else's freedom pass to travel by bus to the crime. Terry Perkins brought his diabetes medication. They boasted about the heist in a bugged car. They met at the same pub where they had planned it. Analog criminals in a digital age. How did a gang of grandpas pull off the largest burglary in English legal history? 3 years of planning, insider knowledge of the building's weaknesses, a 4-day weekend when no one would be around, an alarm system that had cried wolf too many times, police who did not respond, and determination. The determination of men who had spent their lives as criminals, who could not resist one last job. Brian Reeder earned over £200 million from his criminal career. He could have retired in luxury, but he came back for Hatton Garden anyway. Not for the money. He already had money. For the thrill. Terry Perkins said it best. At least we can hold our heads up that we had a last go, the last fling. The Diamond Wheezers, the bad grandpas, the most successful burglars in British legal history. They got away with £14 million. They got caught talking about it in their cars. To this day, more than £5 million remains unaccounted for, hidden somewhere, melted down, lost forever. The only ones who knew its location are dead or in prison. And they are not talking. And that brings us to the end of our story. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so you can receive new videos.